All right, welcome back. It is the day after the 2024 presidential election. So there are many people who are happy right now. There are many people who are not so happy right now. And so I thought it would be a good time to go over the pendulum. The pendulum swings both ways, oscillating in between the extremes. And it's a necessary thing, especially in politics, where, as I mentioned in a previous video, if you go too far left, you get tyranny, and if you go too far right, you get tyranny. And the pendulum is there to ensure that that doesn't happen, at least not for very long. Now, we've covered polarity on this channel to the point where I have essentially beat it into people's minds, but it's also important to understand the mechanisms within polarity itself, or that which is in between. The pendulum is there for balance. And we've also talked about how important maintaining balance is.
I want to say something about the outcome. We corrected ourselves last night. America corrected itself. We were going to a crazy place, and that's what I love about democracy. It fixed itself. We're all better off. And even the Democrats, this was good for them. They're going to get to reboot. This party will be much stronger in 36 months.
People often complain about the U.S. being a two-party system and how they never accomplish anything because when one side gains ground, then they lose it to the other side, and then they go the other direction, and then the pendulum swings the other direction again, and nothing gets done or things move rather slowly when it does. And this is by design. This is what the pendulum keeps in check because you don't want one polarity or the other pushing things to their polarizing extreme. That's how you get tyranny, and that's what the pendulum reigns in. One moment you're on top, the next you aren't. The ones who were celebrating 4 years ago are now the ones who are not, just like they were 8 years ago. And the opposite is true on the other side. It's this back and forth that keeps things in check, and it may not happen for a while. The pendulum swing can be held off for a certain amount of time, and they'd like to get rid of it altogether. And by they, I mean both sides. Because just like in football, when the right gets the ball, they run to their side. When the left gets the ball, they run to their side. And I know it's tough to see at times, but it's this tug of war that ensures our freedom. You may remember the clip I played of the guy who wanted to bring back burning witches and executing anyone who wasn't Christian. So you cannot trust either side to limit themselves, even if you agree with most of the policies on that side, to not continue to move towards their polarity. That's just the direction that they will gravitate. Neither side really likes giving up power. They want to continue gravitating towards that polarity. And as a magician, we need to recognize this, that the opposition exists so that we can continue to remain free, that we don't end up burned at the stake or end up in a gulag. When that opposition is removed, that's when you get a dictatorship. And I think this election, along with the other two, is a perfect example of the pendulum. But particularly this one, because I think this one was really determined because the left tried to push things too far left and tried to eliminate their opposition. That gives the pendulum more weight in the opposite direction of what they intend. So for those who are very upset with the results today, don't worry, eventually you'll be back on top. And for those celebrating today, enjoy it while it lasts because the pendulum eventually will swing the other way. It is inevitable, as it has always been. Now, as a magician, you are meant to rise above the pendulum swing, to not be affected by the highs and lows of the pendulum. And you may have heard other magicians and authors talk about this at some point, but what it really means is that you've depolarized yourself. So it's not that the pendulum swings don't still happen, they do. It's just that you're not clinging on to the pendulum as it swings. Therefore, you are not subject to its highs and lows. You're not so upset that you're posting videos of yourself crying on TikTok. You make your own highs and lows. So it's not that the pendulum doesn't continue to swing. It still does. It's just that you are not as easily moved by it. And that's also due in part that you know eventually the pendulum will swing the other way. It just will. There's no escaping that. Because if you do, then you're in a tyranny and everything's one-sided. You know, a lot of these countries that have so-called elections with only one allowed candidate. As a magician, we strive to achieve and maintain balance, and the pendulum is a mechanism of balance. And this is why you do the middle pillar ritual and the outer order grade work to help balance you out and hopefully see the larger picture. I know many people were saying that this election was about saving democracy. Well, the pendulum does that for us. And as long as opposition is still allowed, it will continue to be, no matter how much either side tries to slow it down. Nothing lasts forever but the certainty of change. The pendulum cannot be avoided, but its effect can be lessened. And as magicians, that's what we strive to do. Now, I did warn that this would happen. And for those of you on Patreon, Subscribestar, and YouTube memberships may recall that I predicted Trump would run and win in 2024 if he did not win his legal challenges in 2020. Biden wins, and then Trump comes back 4 years later in 2024 and then wins. A president is only limited to 2 terms. They don't necessarily have to be consecutive. But I think there's only been one other president who's done that. That would certainly be rare, but not unheard of. And given Trump's popularity on the right, that could happen. 70 million people did go out to vote for him. Because that's what the cards were saying. They were literally saying Trump after Biden. And after some conflict. That could represent anything from January 6th to what they've put Trump through. No political figure has ever been put through more and come out the other side. But that's what the cards said, and the cards are never wrong. Only the interpretations of the person reading the cards are wrong. You could do a reading and be wrong and then come back and look at the cards again and say, oh, yeah, why didn't I see that? This could have totally meant this. But in this case, it was a pretty clear reading of Trump after Biden. Now, what form that would take could only be a couple things after Biden was declared the winner. It's either Trump wins legal challenges after a fight, after the conflict, or he comes back and wins in 2024. Those are the 2 options. Biden represented by the King of Cups, the blue candidate, and Trump being represented by the King of Wands, literally Orange Man. I mean, there's no mistake in who's being represented in this spread. And because I did the spread in a timeline order, it is literally saying Trump after Biden. I've been reading tarot a hell of a long time, since I was a teenager. And this reading was so simple and so clear, I felt comfortable enough putting the prediction out there on a video. In the Thoth Life series, Thoth Life 23, I think. And I never altered that prediction. I never did another reading on it. Because I didn't have to. I was already given the answer 4 years ago. The moment Trump lost and exhausted all of his legal challenges, I knew he would win in 2024. Against all the odds, because of this reading. That's how much faith I have in divination. Like I said, I've been doing it a long time. And I could teach you how to do it as well in my advanced tarot course, of which I'll knock 25% off through the links in this video and in the description. People are talking about how it's the greatest political comeback of all time, regardless of how you feel about him. And yet I was not surprised because of a tarot reading 4 years ago. I have absolute faith in my tarot readings. I've been doing tarot longer than I've been doing magic. So I was not shocked. I know a lot of people were, but you don't have to do a tarot reading to know that eventually the pendulum's going to swing the other way. And it's just part of the rhythm and cycle of things and a mechanism for maintaining balance. So I hope that you found this video informative. Check out my site, mindandmagic.com, and I will see you next time. Take care.